I don't know what the cumulative is. Like since, let's say, 2015 when we started that, I would say it is thousands of pounds.
I would agree.
That people have lost weight.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us.
Welcome back, everybody. Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, as we dive in today as something that we really enjoy, and we're talking about a healthy workplace.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one.
In all aspects across the board. So, they pitched this to us, and I guess it's taken 11 episodes to get here.
We're going to have to really work hard, though, to keep it within the rails.
The storage could get,
out of control.
Matt's already reining me in, so we will fully go through that, kind of how it's impacted us, how it's affected the workplace, and all things healthy workplace. And we're not just talking, I already said that I was going to hit Matt with a burpee test during this, but of how it really relates and how we put the rubber to the road to help it. Mental health and the camaraderie and all the things, health and wellness within.
Very good.
We're not signing up gym memberships. We are trying to operate a business, but kind of how that all flows. So that's what we're doing today.
Hey, recapping last week, is the customer always right? You're going to have to dive back into the episode from last week, but one of the hardest things in business to be able to handle is, no, is the customer always right? No, they're not, but the real topic of the whole deal was, is the customer heard? Were they listened to? Did you go through all of it with them? Because that's most important of all, of a customer, of going through everything there. You got to dive into it, though, and make sure you're subscribing, you're hitting, and you're getting in the middle of that.
I agree. Hey, what do we drive today on the way up here? We got to talk about the new motor. We drove the Ram 1500 up here. It's got the new Hurricane motor. The Hurricane motor.
What is that?
Now they're kind of catching up with Ford. Ford's had the twin turbo EcoBoost for a while, since 2011. So they've got a twin turbo. It's a 6-cylinder. Okay. But what they took from their big brother, the 6.7 Cummins diesel, is they made it an inline 6.
Yeah.
Still a twin turbo, inline 6. It's called the Hurricane motor. It's got a standard output and a high output. That standard output's 450 horsepower. The high output's 510 horsepower. Woo! That inline 6, though, for all you truck and engine guys out there, that gives you instant torque, which helps with that turbo lag. So that's pretty cool. We've got those on the lot in the 1500s. It's got the screens inside up to 14-inch, bunch of cool features, so on and so forth. But I just like how smooth. Of course, we're used to it in the F-150, but how smooth that turbo is, just effortlessly getting on the road.
Yeah, and I think what they probably learned from that is it's really powerful. Super reliable, but it's also pretty fuel efficient.
It is.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing of that.
Yep, that's big.
That really is. All right, diving in today, we're talking about health and wellness. Now, some of y'all are going to laugh and giggle at some of the stories we talk about today. Some of y'all are going to be able to relate with the stories and some of the events we've done, and some of y'all are going to go, they're absolutely nuts, these Lewis brothers. I'm not getting anywhere close to them, but no, you actually do want to, because it's contagious. And I'm just going to tell you, have we always been competitive? Have we always been a type A personality? Yes. But have we always been into health and fitness? No. No. We weren't born that way. That didn't just happen. We'll get into the story about how that happened. But really, for us to break it down at first, like, what does that mean? And then how do you balance it? And it's not just because you're trying to enter this race or get to this competition or to get to a certain body percentage in fat or whatever it may be. It's really to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally, so you get more out of life and you perform better, whether that's at work or at home or overall a better person. And with everything going on these days, too, a healthier body and mind definitely helps you when it comes to defending off diseases and this and that as well. So that'll be an interesting part to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's definitely about creating good habits. Like intentionally using your time, creating good habits, being intentional of what you do with your time. it was an outlet for us.
Sure.
Of like, we're not crazy doing this and doing that. So it was an outlet for us. Helped clear your mind, of the million things going on. It was like I don't care how crazy things are going on. You go for a run and like you're just whipping yourself, or a hard workout. I don't know if you've been deep in a run before, listeners, but you can't really think about too many things. Like, you start spelling street signs that are 4-letter words, and you'll do it for 2 miles. And like, was that an A or an E? And so you can't be mad or worn out. You're not going to go holler at the dog or your wife or the employees,
sure,
because you've just. And so if you can create the habit of waking up and doing that early, and that's taken years and years to do, but it starts on day one. You can change your entire world and your entire workplace.
So a little bit of backstory here. We like to study other people. There's no reason to not study somebody else that's been greatly successful, whether it's listening to a podcast like one of these, or their books, or being around them mentor-wise and learning what are their habits that you find amongst all the top performers. They all work out and take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Some of them are into biking, some of them are into swimming. Some of them are big into CrossFit. I mean, same thing. You get in a CrossFit on every minute on the minute on doing burpees. It's going to be really hard to think about something else.
Just any of those things. So there's a whole lot of context, but I guess let's talk about where it came from.
Sure. So all that comes from us wanting to become healthier. And then I guess we'll actually have to say what it equaled for us. But, it's been, what's it been? Not quite 10 years, but close to 10 years. And Shelby's on a big journey to lose some weight.
Yeah, so let me... I am not good at short stories, but I'll do my very best. So I had a heart issue. Since I was a kid, I had a heart issue. We could never figure it out. But I would always pass out cold. Right? As kids, we'd pass out. We'd be playing football. Matt would blow in my face, trying to get me to wake up. Don't tell the parents. We were all good, right? So one time I was on an airplane with the entire family. We're on a family vacation. I pass out. I can't hide. I can't get out of the chair. Because usually I could lay down on the ground to get over it, right?
Nope, you're there.
What you don't know about me, if you can't see me right now, I'm 195 pounds. I haven't always been this way. I used to be fat Shelby. I was 280 plus pounds. I did not care about health and wellness. The doctors would never tell me, Shelby, you should probably pay attention to what you eat. How physically fit are you, Shelby? What are you doing for exercise?
Sure.
They just hooked me up. They wanted to give me medicine. So, long story short, I promise I'll do that. They put me on a tilt table test after they ran all the EKGs, and less than 10 minutes into it, it was an hour-long test. I told the doctor, I said, hey, I hope you're hooked up because I'm about to pass out. And they turned around and looked at me, I said, I'm passing out. I passed out. My heart stopped for 17 seconds. My heart stopped for 17 seconds. I came back to life, and there was tons of doctors around me. And they said, okay, like they all had this look. I was like, I hope you were hooked up and got what you need to. Because it had been 27 years and I hadn't figured out what it was. And I didn't want to go to the doctor. I was like, oh, I'm okay.
Sure.
So I had vasovagal syncope, which means a regulation of heart rate and blood pressure. So they said, Shelby, we can put a pacemaker in you. I said, no way.
Because remind the listeners how old you were at the time.
So I was 27 or 28 years old.
So you weren't even 30 yet, and they wanted to put a pacemaker in.
And I just had my first son. I was like, I got to figure out what's going on with life. Right? Didn't care. I ate when I ate what I wanted to eat.
Sure.
Played high school football and then cared less. Right? So I go home, throw away all my food. All of my food in the refrigerator and in the freezer.
Sure.
I'm a pretty extreme person, as we all are, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I've tried every trend diet, and I had stopped drinking some years before and still hadn't lost any weight. So anyways, fast forward, just like scanned every single label.
Sure.
I want to know what made food, what made it good, what made it bad. And I tracked every single thing.
You had the MyFitnessPal.
MyFitnessPal. I was premium level without paying for anything. And I tracked every single thing.
Sure.
I started working out. And so then we were on a vacation. That was in December. Then fast forward to February. We were at Big Cedar Lodge.
Yep, we were Big Cedar Lodge, and we're sitting there. And Shelby had been doing some cycling classes, and it had some success.
Yeah, working out in the gym. But
you were working out in the gym, but really hadn't ran. We're all sitting there gigging each other up. We're all sitting around. I don't know what we were doing, but somehow it got on to like, how far do you think you can run? And none of us had been running at the time for a long time. And we're like, well, I bet you can do a mile. And Shelby's like, I can't do a mile. I was like, you can do a mile. Yeah. You can do a mile. He's like, no. He's like, how far do you think you can do? I was like, I bet I can do 3 miles. He's like, you can't do 3 miles. And then our sister's sitting there too. And we're like, okay, we'll go to the gym in the morning on the treadmill.
It was like, no, let's go. Like, we're going and we're going to see this.
We're putting it, we're not just talking smack. We're actually going to put ourselves on the treadmill. And we made it.
Yeah.
We made it to the mile, made it to the 3 miles.
Yeah.
Toast.
Fried.
Done. Fried. And then shortly after that comes Hawkeye. And growing up, my grandfather had been pretty big in the community and running and had teams for the Hawkeye Marathon, so on and so forth. So we knew that you could have a 4-person relay team to be able to do the whole marathon. And at that point in time, we had no idea of like, hey, let's be able to do a marathon. Hey, let's put a 4-person team together.
Yeah, so that was April.
That was April.
So it's a couple months later.
So we're like, okay, that's good. And then at some point in time, it came up, hey, we better try a race on for size before we go to this big event. So we picked the 5K, didn't we?
So 5K, that was in March.
Yeah.
That was my first 5K ever. I don't know, I'm 28 years old,
28 years old, like the Cow Patty 5K.
Oh, Lord. I think it took me 38 minutes. And the problem was...
well, there's a...
The problem was, and I don't remember all the details.
Number one rule here, you're going to hear this today out. Never do anything new on race day.
Oh,
now go ahead.
I've done that 1,000 times. And I forget what it was of things, but maybe I had taken my heart rate medicine.
I think it was that and Red Bull. Or pre-workout.
It was pre-workout.
Okay.
So one of the guys at work was like, hey, you need some pre-workout. So I had my medicine.
It's like an upper and a downer.
It was an upper and a downer. Wanted to try to regulate my
tweeters and the subs were competing.
Oh, gosh. And so I was running this thing. I was like, I'd been running a little bit, a mile here, 2 miles there. I was still, 230 pounds. I had lost some weight. I was in better shape. Oh my gosh. It was like an elephant was sitting on my chest, and my heart was racing. I'd go fast, and then I couldn't move, and then... So I finished it, 38 minutes. I was like, okay, that was awful. Probably I should work on that. So...
But it was a start. I think the point in that is no matter what that looks like, and you'll hear this theory throughout, between all three of us, is you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter how long it takes you.
What the time was.
What matters is that you do it.
And it was the showing up. It was the consistency. It was the accountability through all of us. And we've all had our different walks of life. So then it just conveyed from like, okay, we did that. Then it was okay. Let's try a half marathon.
Yep.
We talked Taylor into a half marathon. Through all the things.
So at that point in time, Taylor, you're mid-20s at that point in time, and you know what I mean. Young whippersnapper, the most. Just for everybody who knows watching the video, Taylor's the most athletic of all three of us by far.
Most athletic and the strongest.
The strongest, the best accolades in high school football, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that, but that's correct. And so it comes to half marathon. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Both my big brothers are doing it.
No.
And I see him coming around the corner at the finish, and I'm like, I better not talk to him. He's pissed at me.
I was worked, but had so much fun being in the middle. I think the most I ran was 5 or 6 miles at
maximum.
At maximum. And if you've ever been in the middle of a race, whatever pace or anything you're going to follow, throw it out the window, especially if you're not prepared or put the work in. Route 66, best one to go to if you're ever going to get in the middle of it, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, you killed it there.
Because it has the atmosphere and everything else. But it hit like a brick wall at the end of it.
But you finished.
I finished it. I was in the middle of it.
So before we get too far in what that is catapulted to, okay, so let's hang on in the Ironmans and the marathons coming up, okay? What we did notice is even from that first 4-person team at the Hawkeye and then to the Route 66, that year at the Route 66, I think we had over 20 people that traveled with us from work to do their first half marathon.
And so that, on that, without running over your story, so Grandpa, Dad too, created
Roots there.
Lewis Line Racing.
Yep.
So in 1981, Lewis Line Racing, they used to take us as kids.
Oh, yeah.
To the Tulsa Run, and we would do that. That was over Halloween, so that had created that whole thing. So then we told, as we got into it, we wanted to drag people into it.
We did, but I can tell you something that I remember from my grandfather is we'd go over there and we'd run the fun run, the 1 mile. But as soon as we finished, he would take us all within about a block of the finish line for the 15K. And I remember these words, and I'll never forget them. That we would sit there and we would clap for people coming in. And looking good, finish strong. Looking good, finish strong. That's what we would repeat to every single runner, clapping and hollering. And you don't realize it as a kid, but then growing up, you're like, you have to be there to support and to encourage others in life, in fitness, in work to help others be successful if you want a successful team.
Yeah. And so then we told the team, like, hey, Route 66 coming up, let's train together. Because it's more fun to suffer with others, right?
Sure.
So it's like, hey, I need somebody else to get up with me at 6 a.m. I need somebody to stay late, and so we can go run. We ran Yasso 800s. If you're a runner, you know what I mean. If you don't, just disregard it. In the mall parking lot.
J.C. Penney's, we set up cones.
We set up cones into the Yasso 800s with our whole crew. But we told them if they'd sign up for it or if they would dedicate to it, we would pay for their way to go.
Yes.
And it was the refire of the culture of the running and the fitness and taking care of yourself. And it was so much fun because they're like, hey, what are you eating? What's your nutrition? And how's this going? And so we were evolving, figuring it out, right? Hey, don't touch this and do this. And it's bred a culture that...
We had everybody, so at that point in time, we got them Lewis Line Racing shirts.
Yep.
Okay. And on the back, we went around in the community, business partners that we had, asked them if we could use their logo, and we put them as sponsors on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully I don't burst anybody's bubble here that was on our running team. We really didn't have paid sponsors, okay? But we asked Rush
They got their way paid.
And we asked Track Club and Race Wizard.
Oh, yeah.
So we had all the logos on the back because it was about how did it make that employee feel if they were a part with the race shirt, and now they had sponsors on the back. Junk headbands that had our stuff.
Mud towels.
So it's what all could we do to help that culture to support just a healthy way of life?
I don't know what the cumulative is. Like since, let's say, 2015 when we started that, I would say it is thousands of pounds.
I would agree.
That people have lost weight.
Yes.
Not me, not that, I mean, I have, and lots of other people have, but cumulatively I've seen people's lives change, change their lifestyle. Because not one we took and said, hey, let's go do liposuction, and hey, let's go do this, or let's do that. It was let me show you how to sustainably, long-term, change your life, and how it changes your mental state, how it changes how you look with your family and what you can do. Thousands of pounds, I would say.
No, I agree. The state of encouraging others to be healthier, through eating, through exercising, will change their life. It'll replace, I'm not a doctor, but it'll replace some medication.
Oh, yeah.
It'll help you think clearer.
Oh, yeah.
It'll help you be a better human being. You'll actually be able to walk around when you have grandkids one day to be able to play with them, so on and so forth. So that was fun for us to see. And then, of course, again, remember, we are a very type A personality. We are very competitive. So then that just started evolving. And then we looked up and we're like, what's the percentage of people that have ever done a marathon? It's less than 1%. Oh, hang on. I want to be better than 99% of everybody else out there. Let's do a marathon.
So let's do a marathon. Then it was like, hey, how fast should we do a marathon?
Okay.
It's like, okay, 4 hours seems like a good time, like the standard, right?
That's right.
9-minute pace, 9:09 pace. Let's do that. So then it just, it was so addictive. Just the science to it of this and this. And so then we drug a lot of people into that. We had never ran a marathon. And then they had never ran a marathon. And it was like, they were like, you're crazy. It was like, come be crazy with us.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And lots and lots of people that it just kind of kept building. And it's helped people have a positive mindset.
It really has.
Help them be encouraging. It help people to look good, finish strong, right? They've done that. They laugh about that. You could ask Freddie, hey, what do we say during a race? and he'd tell the customer, "Hey, looking good, finish strong." Like
every single time.
they know that. Right?
They do. So then it goes to, we've had aid stations we've worked. So then we go out there, we get to encourage them.
Yep.
And again, the stories could go on and on here about, you know, the different events to the, what was next, the triathlons and the Ironmans and the 100-mile trail races. And, you know, then Taylor is our number one crew chief coming through.
In the middle of it.
In the middle of the woods, he comes. And like anywhere we go, you guys hopefully are starting to understand we're all out. So Taylor, you would come to the aid station, that first 100-mile trail race we were doing. And what all did you bring into the aid station?
It was a full ordeal of everything. Obviously, they had so many different totes and whiz bangs and this and that, but every single aid station pop open. We're talking stereo, everything they need, chairs sitting down, ready to go, swap them out. It was like a pit crew for, think of NASCAR or anything else.
It was a NASCAR for trail racing. So Matt is an over scientist of the calories and the whole things. And so
good.
we had
the
all
nutrition.
He had all these totes, and he would always ask me the night before. So the first time we ran 100 miles, yeah, I know you don't like to drive that far, but we ran 100 miles. That was in 2021. 2021, Arkansas Traveler. So we had a crew. Taylor was our crew chief. That, you know, so you had to go from station to station. It was at 19 miles, and at 30 miles, and at 44 miles, and at 55 miles, and 70 miles, and then I don't know.
It gets lost.
But so we had this whole dolly that had like 8 to 10 totes, and it was food and nutrition. And Matt was like, "Hey, what's your plan?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, no, we need to break down your macros. I was like, yeah, you got a mac and you got a roll.
I'm like, here's what you're going to do then.
And so he's like, hey, you need X amount of protein. So it was funny. He would have that. I would bring the laughter and the excitement, you know, within it. And then Taylor, like, so once it was pouring down rain the first 30 miles. So,
well, before you go into the rain, I've got to back up because Taylor didn't do it justice for everybody out there listening. Like, he killed it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, not only did we have 6 totes, he carried the generator, the PA speaker, a 10 by 10 tent, and the dolly with all this on.
While it was raining.
Pouring down rain.
Yeah.
So he had a full PA system set up at every single aid station.
He'd get there before we would set it up, service us, change out the lug nuts and the tires, and get us going.
Prep them up to send them
What
out.
about the earthy people, Taylor?
Oh,
Did they know what you had going?
I love earthy people. Shelby, if you're listening to this, anything else, whatever. I'm not getting deep off of that, but I laugh about it. And I always tell Shelby, man, no, you know the people that take off their shoes, and that's what they're really a part of. They're really part of the culture, and just not any of that. But just
Taylor knew what
just tears me
what we wanted, but he said at the first aid station, was like, because they would say, like, hey, how are you guys doing? We got into it 30 miles, and it rained for the first 5 hours.
Oh, yeah, and they wanted to be a part of everything I had.
And I was like, Taylor, tell us what's going on. How's it going here? And he's like, no, what do you guys need? He's like, no, tell us what's going on. It's like, do people like your music? He's like, these earthy people. I carried all this stuff up, and they were looking at me like, generator, PA speaker with 1,500 watts, a dolly with 8 totes, a 10 by 20 pop-up tent, and then like 4 or 5, what we would call groupies, would be our family and all the extra people that wanted to be a part of Pacers. And he's like, these earthy people were just giving me a hard time. Well, they all mean well, right? Just like most of them are pretty minimalistic.
Yeah, mean great.
And then we just brought all the thunder.
All the thunder. They'd be wanting to be underneath my tent.
But then they started to kind of like you.
Well, it started raining, and then what happened? They wanted to be
under my tent. They didn't want to
like, hey.
anything. Yes, absolutely. Being in the middle of it. So,
and it was just like, it was the next thing. So it was the next thing, and so we didn't just go straight from the marathon to 100 miles.
Well, we didn't. And I think the important part here is we're talking about Taylor is if you look in your workplace or if you look in your family or you look around your group of peers, you always have to create the culture for people to thrive.
You have to.
And you have to have the people to help them support.
Yes.
Shelby and I would not have been able to do that 100-mile, would not have been able to achieve the times we achieved without Taylor creating that culture of every time. We knew when we came into that aid station, they were going to be rocking. They didn't want to hear about complaints we had. They wanted to see about how good we were doing, so we had to put on our game face and dig deep. And then other people, even though at first, if they weren't used to that type of culture, it bled off on them.
It did. They wanted to be a part of it by the end. I mean, our last aid station, I love this, and it always pops up on timeline of not when we were running into the fog, but whenever you're coming into, and it was 2 or 3 in the morning. At this point, we were on top of a mountain, and the run was coming way down the hill and everything else. And I kind of got there, and some people were sleeping. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to put as much out. And I said, forget it. I had all this light.
Lake Winona aid station, 73 miles coming in.
So I put this big light up. I had strobes. I'm pretty sure I may have thought I did have strobes on the back of the thing that was going on, and had the radio going. And people were like, okay, we're in it. We're still in the middle of it.
Thing, because we had a pacer that was with us.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'd ran a group of 3, Matt, me, and Mark. And so we'd found our groove by then, right?
Yes.
We were chasing people down.
Yep.
We'd found our groove. You know, when one person was low, the other person was high. Drag them through it. Eat this. Take your headphones out so you can hear us. Do this. And so as we came down that road, I remember, and then we had to turn the corner and come up the hill. It's like, man, I wonder if Taylor's going to have any food. Like, I hope he's got the music going. And we turned the corner, and our pacer, who didn't, knew we had a high level of expectations, and it was Zach.
Was it Zach or Daniel?
It was Zach at that part.
It was
and then
Zach.
we picked up Daniel.
That's right.
But he was just like didn't know what to do, and pacing is a tricky thing.
Because we started picking people off at that point.
We had got the turnaround. We were 22 positions in. We were 22 from first, and so we started picking people off, and we were tearing away. We came around that corner. We could hear. I can still hear the music coming around that corner. And I was like, yes, he has it. And so it was like a recharge. Like, we went from zombie mode to, kill mode.
Yes.
Came up the hill. He knew he had to bring it for us. We knew we had to bring it for them.
To
thank them, because it had been raining, and it was 3 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
All of that.
And
it was part of it.
And so it came in like, hey, I need you to pop these blisters. Hey, I need you to tear these socks off. Give me a fresh set of shoes.
Some more of that
Give me
Bengay.
some Bengay. I need 5 more dude wipes.
Tailwind, whip it all.
The thing. And it was a full-on...
It was a system.
It was amazing.
It was absolutely amazing. And I think if some of y'all are like, I didn't tune into the podcast to hear about how to do a 100-mile race. what you tuned into, though, is to understand about being healthy, mentally and physically, and that it doesn't happen just by yourself. You might have the idea, but to fuel it and to keep it consistent and long-term, you need a team and to create the right atmosphere.
There's gonna be a snooze button you want to hit. You got to know that somebody's waiting on you. It's gonna call you out. You know, the memes and the phone calls that I call people in the morning. I'm like, hey, cock-a-doodle-doo, I'm coming to flip your mattress over.
Here we
go.
You
better get up. The accountability system and that habit that you create, and it's in you, then it's in your culture, and it's in your employee workplace. There's someone in your workplace right now that is just one question away of changing their life to help you. You think you're changing their life, they're helping you change yours. And it was just one question that had to be asked. It was like, hey, let's do this. And how do we do this? And so then it was an idea. And then Matt was like, all right, let me geek out on this. And I'm like, hey, we should do this and this and this. We should run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Like, all right, so what does that look like? You know, and then it was just like someone else is like, hey, can I be a part of that? Can I be a part of that? And it's just positive. It's good for you, and it's just. Then you see your kids doing it.
They do.
They're excited. Hey, I want to bike. I want to run. What are you eating? Why are you not? And my kids are like, can't eat that. It's got sugar in it, Dad. And I'm like, I
know. Hey, you'll hear one of mine pop up. It's got red food dye in it.
Oh, gosh, all this stuff. And the impact that you have around the people.
I think that the part we always talk about, too, with the kids is, and some of y'all think that's just crazy, whether they cold plunge with us or they run with us or they bike with us or, they're putting things together in the shop, is the life lesson about doing hard things.
Yes.
And the life lesson about when everybody else wants to just sit on the couch and play video games, or they want to not skip practice today, or they want to not show up, that's going to happen in life. And that's how you win, is you take adversity, take a deep breath, figure out how to problem solve, and then how to move forward. I listened to a guy talk about this on a podcast the other day, and it made a whole lot of sense. Now, we've been in this for a little bit, so it didn't resonate until I thought deeper about it. But if you'll take the average person out there, let's say you're in your mid-30s, mid-40s, mid-50s, I want you to think for just a second. Let's say you're 45 years old. When was the last time that you did a strenuous activity on your body that elevated your heart rate for, let's say, at least 3 to 5 minutes? And when most people think about that, I'm not talking about elevating your heart rate because you saw a snake. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or I'm not talking about the moving boxes last time you moved. Intentional, some type of workout.
Yeah.
All out sprint, a burnout on the bench, some kettlebells, whatever. And when people really start thinking about that, they're like, you know what? It's been since high school.
Yeah.
It's been since maybe intramural sports in college. Mm-hmm. And when you start thinking about that, your body gets into this state of for somewhere between 60 average heartbeats to maybe 110, and then it never pressures itself to get in that whole different stage of thinking and clarity. That's why you need some type of physical activity mentally.
It is so important. So you said this, and I have to go back to it because I love stories, and we have the time. Talking about the kids and working through hard things. Mm-hmm. So without fully storying, but I'll story. So we decided to run the second 100 miles. Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, yeah, that wasn't awful. It was awful, but we conquered our goal, right? It was like, hey, let's go run 100 miles, complete it. Go sub 24 hours. We ran it in 22 hours. Ended up 12th place, 13th place, 12th, something like that. So we signed up for one of the mountains. Like, let's go do it at the mountains. So we signed up, Colorado, Run Rabbit Run, Steamboat Springs, 100 miles, I don't remember, 25,000 feet of elevation gain, over 10,000 feet elevation 90% of the time. It did not go as planned. It did not go as planned. And without telling the whole story, I'll tell you my main point. Before the race, there's the race expo. Mm-hmm. And so we walked through this race expo. Trail races don't have all the frills and thrills, like you said, Route 66 Marathon. But they had some stuff. You can buy a coffee mug or a beer mug or something. But they had these shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they had these shirts. And we had gone to a Ford meeting and just piggybacked a Ford meeting to fly to Colorado. Mm-hmm. Bad idea. We sat in the cheap seats back by the toilet. If you know,
thought like a good idea.
Yeah, sat in 2 days of Ford meetings. Left the family at home.
Body's out of whack.
Body was whipped. We were at elevation. So I bought these shirts, and I was like, I need to give my kids something. They love for us to bring something home. So I bought these shirts, and they were the only shirts they had, neon green, and I know exactly what they'll get. It says, my dad can run 100 miles. Can your dad?
I remember it.
Okay, so I bought these shirts before the race. I don't know why I bought them before the race, but I've already ran 100 miles, right? If you can do it once, you can do it again. Oh, my Lord. So we start this race. It's 5 miles straight up the mountain. Mm-hmm. We gain 4,000 feet of elevation gain. I get to the top. I take a big swig of my water bottle, and my nutrition was bad. It gone bad. My stomach went south.
You weren't following the macros.
No, I didn't pay attention to any of that, and it showed up. So anyways, we keep going, and I'm like, I'm not feeling good. This isn't working. So I told Matt to go ahead, and we've always ran together.
Yeah.
At like 12 miles, we're going back up the mountain, and I said, hey, go ahead, I'll catch right back up to you. I don't know why he fell for it.
Well, Mark and I...
Okay. Yeah.
Because we had me,
4
you,
people.
Mark, and Sean, so we split into 2 groups of 2.
That's how I sold you.
Yes.
Okay, so I was like, hey, run with Mark, I'll run with Sean. Sean's like, yeah, I need to cool down a little bit because we were jacked up, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no energy, I can't go. So that was the last time we saw each other, like 13 miles or something. It was a long time. Now, remember, we completed 100 miles in 22 hours. Mm-hmm. So Sean and I kept running together, made it all the way back town, skipping some steps here. I wanted to quit at every aid station. Mm-hmm. I hadn't eaten anything since like 2 hours in. I could not eat. You need to eat when you're running. It's important. I could not eat. Every aid station I tried, and I wanted to quit at every aid station, but they were in the middle of the mountain, and it was cold. It rained, and it hailed about every 2 hours. And I thought, if I quit right here, I'm going to freeze to death, and I have to sit here, or I have to ride a dirt bike back with this guy. That's not going to work. So I made it all the way back to town at 50 miles. I was done, devastated, whipped. I had not eaten, so I don't know how it had been, 16 hours at that point.
Sure.
And Sean's leg had completely quit on him, so he dropped out of the race then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a pacer, and I was like, oh, crap, Freddie flew out here. I was like, let me just run this loop with Freddie. I wasn't running. We were speed
Well, you
walking
first
now.
text me, and you're like, take Freddie with you.
Yes.
You told
Okay,
me.
I was
you
like-
got to the top of a
'cause I was
mountaintop.
quitting,
Because you
right?
were quitting, and
didn't
you're like,
say
hey,
that,
you didn't
but-
say that,
yeah.
but we know each other well enough.
Yeah.
And you're like, just take Freddie with you. Well, at that point in time, I was still with Mark, the
Yes.
other guy that ran with me. I was like, no way, I'm taking Freddie. And I was like, I don't think I'd text you back that, but I was going to have Freddie sitting there waiting for you.
It's like, do not let Shelby
Well, I
quit.
thought that was going to be great, but Mark picked up his pacer, and they hadn't seen each other in 10 years, and then they just dusted me. So then I was
then
on
you
the
got
side of the
dropped
mountain.
with no pacer.
No pacer, but Freddie was sitting there, so when you came in...
He was rallied,
Yep.
and he's like, you look good, right? Like, looking good, finish strong. He's like, you look good. And I was like, what? No, I feel awful. I haven't eaten in 16 hours.
Yep.
I was like, that was awful. He's like, no, you came in running. You're looking good. And I was like, hey, well, you want to go for a quick loop? And I was like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I don't run.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's cool. I don't
Yeah.
either. And so we completed 12-mile loop.
Yep.
And then he was fried because at that point I'd become a master power walker.
Sure.
In 16 hours of training, I'd figured it out.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't walk this fast up the mountain. And I was like, no, I'm just getting the next aid station. When we get back, I'm going to quit. And he's like, oh, no, you're doing so good.
Yeah.
Still probably hadn't said quit.
Yeah.
So then Deborah helped me get to the next spot, but then I was by myself.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how many miles, but I don't know, 60 miles. So I was by myself. I started hallucinating.
Yep.
I was lost in the bushes, but I was on top of this mountain somewhere at about 77 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still getting to the next aid station to quit. Somehow I just made it around the next tree, the next
Sure.
corner, and I remembered those stupid shirts.
What were you going to be able to do with them if you hadn't finished?
Nothing. And so I remember...
You couldn't give them to your kids at that
Oh,
point.
that was my exact thing. I started crying while I wasn't running, remember, but I was walking fast. I was walking a 15-minute pace, and I was passing people, and I was crying, like, you idiot, why did you buy these stupid shirts?
Yeah.
I was like, when you get home, because my kids had sent me a video, one of them said, hey, make sure you finish, and the other one said, don't get last place. I was like, okay, perfect, kids. You don't get how hard this is. So I thought, what's your good reason? You fly home, they pick you up at the airport, and they say, hey, Dad, how'd you do? And you say, oh, my stomach hurt. Like, that's stupid. Throw it out the window. And I was like, oh, your knee's locked up? I was like, okay, well, did you break it? Like, because they're young kids, right? They're
Is that
like,
what
is
you
your
say
knee
to them?
broken? I was like, no, my knee's not broken. I was like, well, you hadn't eaten anything in 22 hours now.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not relevant. I was like, why did I buy these stupid shirts? So it took me 34 hours.
Yeah.
Matt waited for me at the 1 mile left. It was not a 100-mile race. It was like 103 miles. So he sat there and waited on me till the very end. And then I ran this thing in. And I got home, gave him the shirts, and I said, I did this for you.
Yeah.
I bought these stupid shirts.
What should you do?
I said, it took me 34 hours. Just destroyed me.
Yeah.
But to show you, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Do hard things.
Like, do hard things. And I was like, I hate this and I love this all at once. Like, it's so good. And it was a reminder, like, and that one just, like, destroyed me. But then I was like, I can do hard things.
Yep.
I just got to find something else because right now I hate running.
Because even people that don't say anything to you, your kids are a great example, but there's other employees and there's other people in your circle of influence that see you, and they may not ever say anything, but you're getting to be an influence in their life on a daily basis.
Huge.
Yeah.
You know,
Huge.
and I'm telling you guys out there, there is a lesson here. And you need to understand something. You're an influencer every single day. You don't get to choose whether you're an influencer or not. You just get to choose, is it going to be in a positive or a negative way? And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about these crazy things of 100 miles and the shirt for your kids. But all that matters because that helps them get through life.
Yeah.
So as we
huge.
continue to talk about that, we're getting ready to build this new facility. We understand that the top performers, they exercise, they take care of their mental health so they can think clear.
Yeah.
You know, we build an entire gym
Yeah.
to be in there so that people can be healthier. So before we get into the gym part, though, we got to get to our fun fact of the day. Here it is. We spent 2 weeks of our lives waiting at stoplights in our vehicles. We got to fix that.
Yeah,
Take
just
a
turn
Cars are
right.
usually parked for 95% of their time. Who came up with this? Airbags move at speeds of 4,500 miles per hour. I like that better. And deploy within 40 milliseconds of collision.
Those are fun facts. Just fun fact for you.
That's all.
Airbags 4,500 miles per hour.
I like that.
You spend
95%.
95% of the time cars are parked.
I try really not to, though.
Yeah.
Just sometimes there's people in the way.
Well, fun fact, gym, health, and fitness, if you leave earlier in the morning,
There's no
traffic.
you're not in traffic.
There's no.
There's no traffic. So let's dive into the next part about the physical, the healthy, the active part.
Yeah, so talking about the gym, we built this gym to be able to. It was pretty selfish, but we'd lured some people in by this point.
But it was really, we were talking about this at a family dinner, and I know you brought it back up that I had talked about it. I had this reflection one day, and I said, we've been very blessed that we've had a successful family business.
Yeah.
Okay? And then there's people that go out and they buy boats, or they buy, a house out in the mountains, or they do this or that.
Lanes.
It's like, you know what? We took our money and we invested it in something selfish that we'd want to use, but then other people get to use it. It's this gym. Because it's dang nice.
It has a pretty good net return, and so it is very nice.
Yeah.
And we talked about the people we've shown it to and be like, oh gosh, this is
Y'all went
legit.
in.
Like full speed ahead, like full sauna. Like people love the sauna with the eucalyptus oil, 220 degrees. It's on the timer.
Tell them about it, Taylor.
The sauna is great. I love
Yeah.
being in the middle of it.
But the gym's got a
Yes.
little bit for everybody. I know we've been talking about running here, but take them through a tour.
It does. So yeah. So coming through, full weights machine, Smith machine, bench. People come in there and we laughed the first time they came through. And this was the funny part. It encouraged people that had not been in there, but of getting in there and doing relentless rowing, doing rowing on the ground, doing this ripper over your head that'll rip your arms off is great. And of Stairmasters, of treadmills that go up to 30% incline.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely everything. Then going over to a spin class that's got a whole studio that you can do TRX and spin bikes and yoga classes and full studio with Mike. Matt's getting it all set up to where he's going to lead a spin class. He doesn't know it yet, but we're going to get in the middle of it. Transition over to a sauna that gets up to 200. Shelby's got it to the max temp. It'll absolutely boil you. Then cold plunge. It's absolutely setting a precedent that's never been there before.
So a point on that I'll say, and there's a lot to unpack from that, but so the cold plunge is in there, and that's a kick that we've through hard things that we've done from Ironman races that we've done. Or Route 66, I remember finishing one. I said, "Where's your cold plunge? Or your ice bath?" And they're like, "We don't have one."
Sure.
Like, no. My calves are locked up. My quads are locked up. Where is it? They didn't have one because we had done that in hotels. We went on a whole week-long biking vacation, biked 450 miles, and every night we would do cold plunge. And so that's been a thing. And so now they make cold plunge tubs, right? That condition and clean. So we built one of those in there, and it's in the locker room. And there's been so many people. Like this morning, when we finished the workout, there was a line. There was like 5 guys waiting to get in this thing, waiting to get in. These people would never. I mean, it's 37 degrees.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's 37 degrees, and you would never. Because I have one in my house. I still have to commit. I take one every single day. I have to convince myself to get in that dang thing. Like, that's one of my non-negotiables is get in that thing. So because it's around other people and it's the positive influence
It's a
that
circle
the gym
influence.
brings.
Oh, yeah.
There's people that are like, I've never been in this, and why would I ever get in this? And then they get out of it, and the dopamine level is through the roof.
Through the roof.
And so then we see them shining bright throughout the entire day because they showed up, got a little workout, got in the cold plunge or sat in the sauna. They're a happier person. They treat their family better. They share stories like, hey, I've lost X amount of pounds. I haven't been below this threshold. And so those cool elements we just built those intentionally into that area.
So that was the point of the gym, is we understood the significance of being healthier, being in better shape, both mentally, physically, and for both at work and at home.
Yeah.
So that's why we built that, because we had seen from if we rolled the tape back to when we ran that first Hog Eye, of the power of influence and how that could change people's lives. Mm-hmm. So we said, let's create that as an employee benefit. So not only do we give them a great place to work, we help them be better human beings, both at work and at home. And that help us. That's why I want Taylor to walk through there. So whether you're using the dumbbells, the kettlebells, the bikes, the rower, the Stairmaster, the treadmill, you're in the sauna, you're cold plunging, any of those things, so we can create an atmosphere. We took that on as ownership, personal ownership, going, what can we do for employees to help them be mentally and physically in a better space? And I'm just telling you this, just Google it up, the top traits of the most successful people out there, and define success however you want to. All of them are taking care of themselves, physically and mentally. And there's story after story after story. And you heard Shelby's when we started this off of not doing this medical thing just because you take care of your body.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't say that. I didn't put a pacemaker.
Yeah, that's an important part.
I did not. They gave me medicine to regulate, and I said, okay. And I'm not good about taking regimens. Obviously, Matt says, hey, here's what we need to take. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just figure it out. So I did not put a pacemaker in my body, and I didn't take the medicine hardly at all.
Sure.
And I've been, thank the Lord, but 10 years of taking care of myself, and I knew if I just took care of myself by what I ate, when I did,
sure,
I have not had an issue. It's just it's so important, and you can help people through that, and we see that time after time of people giving examples of that,
Yeah. And I think, then too, we talk about the events that we've done physically, but then all the events that we're a part of in the community, and probably most of y'all have been to these events where we have aid stations. Same competitiveness. We take a ton of pride in our aid stations.
Just like if you're going to do something, right? We talk about generally on Saturdays.
Yes.
Like if you're going to be away from work, you might as well do it good. Like
Right.
Taylor, talk about the Spartan race. Spartan finally came to town.
Oh yeah, this was a Spartan Ultra Championship.
It was the national championship for the U.S. in Fayetteville at Mount Kessler.
Yes.
And so we said, okay, give us an aid station. We got this.
Oh yeah, we got what all did we bring? Before you get into your cooking part, tell them what all we brought.
Like.
Oh, it was on Halloween. It was getting close to Halloween, so we had the gear there. I knew we were in for it. Whenever Matt brings a vehicle and is like, hey, this is pretty deep, we got to strategically place and pack this. I'm like, what do you mean we've got to strategically? We're talking, of all your coolers and, of course, your generators. We're not one PA speaker. We're 4 at this point, and we're in spans of 50 feet off each, so 200 feet of 4 PA speakers that are 1,200 watts apiece, all running off generators. Lights, yes, we're absolutely insane, but lights on our tent, the gig bars. Fog machines. I have a problem with fog, and so we brought a couple of fog machines,
inflatable arch.
all of this, but we had to pack all this in the back of a Wrangler because the only way to get around the fence to be able to get up on top of the mountain was small enough, but it was in a Gladiator because we put it in the truck bed. A normal size truck or anything wouldn't fit in there. So we squeezed it back there, got it back there, parked on the trail. Absolute nuts. People love the atmosphere, but then we're dying laughing because we're bringing the absolute thunder. We have all the lights, everything going. Microphones.
Because they had a 10K race the night before.
It was a night race.
Night.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's where we told people they could work at our aid station. They had to interview to work at it, which was funny. But they had to have what?
They had to have a costume on.
They had to have a costume.
They had to have costumes on.
And what about yours?
What was yours?
I was a Sasquatch.
It was Sasquatch.
In the woods. So imagine running a race through the woods.
With we don't do anything halfway. So the speakers were loud. Because remember, mile 73 of us coming up that hill, the
Coming over
speakers.
the hill.
We said, Taylor, I don't care what anyone says, you play the music. So then when it was for us to provide for people, We went over the
Oh, my
top.
God.
So just part of the calibration, so you understand it, and if not, find a race that we're a part of and run it, because we'll bring you back to life.
Oh yeah, the walkie-talkies and
The
the
walkie-talkies, so I'm going to get to the walkie-talkies, but the speaker placement, we would go almost a mile down the trail before and after and have live on the phone and reposition the speaker so you could hear it farther, the bass. And then we set up people on walkie-talkies with a race list that knew their bib number and then their name, and they would walkie-talkie it up. So then we announced it over the
with
PA
the microphone
station.
and and 2 miles. that
2
you were
miles.
hearing it.
So when you came in, we got Bob from Illinois coming in, running a 50K today, and everybody's yelling, "Go Bob!" Bob has not met anybody here ever before.
No.
And he's like, "Who are these people?"
But I'm fired up.
Jacked up. He's coming up this hill and it's like, "Don't walk, Bob. Give her all you got." And
Well, I mean, they had to be awake,
and they were just like,
because
"Oh my God."
my fog was out of control. Lights were everywhere. There were creatures coming. So if you were tired, you were halfway scared and started running up the hill. But then you got
Sasquatch was out
excited.
there.
I mean, there were owls in the tree and everything
Yeah.
else.
So fast forward to the 50K the next day, then we had the food.
Yes, the
And so
food.
if Taylor's going to be there, he's going to be cooking.
Yeah,
and
so
we
Shelby
have
and-
Just like goo packets and Gatorade?
No. You told me we needed the substance of being able to put in there. So I started making there like, hey, you got to get a. When we had coffee, we had everything powered off these generators. I had a flat top going. I was making quesadillas, and I'm like, hang on, Shelby, where's the bacon? He's like, no, people don't need that. I'm like, no, let's put the bacon. So it needed to be cheese and bacon in these quesadillas. So I'm putting them out front. Guys are running through. One guy's like, man, this is good. This is the best one I've had. Come to find out, the guy's a vegan.
Hang on, this guy is like world renowned.
Oh, he is world.
Michael Wardian, who's ran 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days.
Yes.
He holds many titles. Who I believe is vegan or some type of specialized diet. And this was multiple people, but he had flown in as part of Spartan and was leading the race.
Sure.
And Taylor was feeding him bacon-infused quesadillas.
Yeah, I was dressed up as Forrest Gump, my hat on backwards, and had shorts that were probably
And
too short.
was he
to wear.
upset?
No, he was so jacked. I think he won the race, record time. I brought life to him. Matt said, and this is hilarious, I'll remember this, but he tells me because Shelby and Matt have ran so many trail races and everything else. And I love to be a part of anything family. Love being a part of anything. And our attitude is pushing and going anything. You can ask me to do anything and I'll blow my legs out trying to do it because I should plan more for it. But if anything else, and he said, Taylor, you went to one event and you're already nicknamed the trail chef of the woods. He said, we don't even have any nicknames. We've ran them all.
Yeah, we've ran them all. The earthy people, next time we saw them.
Yeah, they're like,
they said, where's
the
your trail chef? Where's your trail
You got a trail name, and we've ran 100 miles and
You
ain't
got
gotten
to their
anything.
heart with the food.
Oh, yeah,
So
with the
it was
food.
the atmosphere, and so we got to bring it just being a part of it.
We did. And then the police got to see that too, just when we were at the Hero Half.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it. When I come through the Lewis aid station, we never want to be at the end either.
No.
We want to be right where it starts getting hard.
Where the hard part is, it's a dead zone, put us there.
We're going to bridge the gap to get you to the finish. Our job is to bring encouragement, bring enthusiasm, bring support so you can thrive and be your best. That happens in the gym at work.
Oh, yeah.
That happens in these aid stations. People see that personally in ourselves by leading by example there. And I just think when you start thinking about that, I want you to think about that question is, when's the last time you did a strenuous activity and pushed yourself physically? Your body needs that. If not, it goes into the almost this coma state.
It does, and so you talked about that heart rate thing, and so this is kind of crazy if you don't know it. If you do know it, this is normal, but the higher you'll push that, the closer you'll get to your max, the lower your resting heart rate will become, which means it becomes more efficient. Because if your resting heart rate is 70, 80, 90 right now, that's beats per minute your heart has to move the adequate amount of blood to supply oxygen and all the things. The harder you work and the higher you get that, your resting heart rate it says more efficient. Like I've gone to the doctor before, and like when I was in prime triathlon, And they're like, is your heart rate normally 42 to 43 beats? I was like, oh, yeah, that's normal. Like, okay, I just want to make sure there wasn't something wrong with it. And it was just because you just pushed yourself. So Matt says do hard things. Don't sign up for a 50K today unless you've done that. Don't sign up for a 100-miler. But, intentionally go find some stairs. Walk intentionally.
We talk about the heart rate part. I don't know if you remember when Chris and I got on the whole calculation. One of our managers, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing here, but I helped him calculate if you drop your average, your resting heart rate, your heart only pumps so many times life cycle wise, and if you can reduce that, that's a whole different conversation.
Then your heart can last longer.
Your heart can last longer.
Like who wouldn't want to? This is the one thing you cannot buy is time.
I know.
You can buy a majority of anything. You cannot buy more time. So if you'll take better care of yourself, you'll live a better life while you're doing it because you'll enjoy it, and then you might live a little longer. So that's one of those things, and people always give us a hard time.
They do.
Like, you can blow out your knees or this. I was like, well, I'm having fun doing it.
Take some more collagen.
Yeah, let's go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he does. I don't, but it's the two samples going. Like, he'll tell you all the things, and I'm just like, yeah, just drink some water, keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the biggest deal there, of getting in the middle of it, of creating the atmosphere for your whole team to be able to work together. But, crazy stories. In this, you think we went deep into it. This is just scratching the surface of everything in there. We've kind of touched everything of going over there. But, frequently asked question, favorite part of the car business?
Oh, man. I'll take the first part of that. I would say one of the most intriguing parts to me is that it's not the same every single day. And I'm not that type of person that would be great with doing the monotonous same task. Is every day we have some different type of, let's call it either challenge that we have to find a solution with, whether it's employees or processes or parts or vehicles or a way to attract customers. Every single day, you've got to figure out what type of solutions do I have to find today to keep this business moving forward.
Yeah, most definitely. So I would say favorite part of the car business is customer interaction. And, so whether that's you're caught up on the monotonous things of just the checks and balances, and then you get to go customer interact. Like, so if it's hanging out in the service drive, meeting, greeting people, and helping people find their way through things and enjoy the process, or if it's hanging out at the sales tower and helping, breathe and work through the next generation of the salespeople, and then going out with the customer and helping them, hey, let's work through this process. This is so much fun. Here's your red carpet photo, and just, one, it's fun to interact with the customer, and two, it's really fun to help someone grow through that who's not always had success in that. Help them grow. That's definitely fun.
Let's flip it to the other side. Anybody that's listening there, because they think, hey, they've only heard success or anything else. Yeah. What's the one thing you have to force yourself that you really don't like doing in this business?
I'll take that first. Is sitting behind the computer, right? It's not my if you've listened to this entire episode so far, 50 minutes in or whatever it is, I don't like sitting down for a long time. I like moving through, talking to people I just told you. So it's necessary, right, for the reports and getting the things done that need to be done and all the monotonous million things the manufacturer says you have to do. So sitting behind the computer and just doing, you said you like the thing that it's variable of this is not so variable, right? This is just that you have to check these things. And so that's not my favorite part.
Yeah, I'd have to, not to rip what you're saying there, but I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah.
I love what the data allows me to do to manage and find opportunities. I do not like compiling the data and putting together monotonous stuff, but I understand what it equals.
Yeah.
But I think if you ask any of our employees, you wouldn't find us sitting in the seat very long at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and to jump off of where y'all are talking about there, and y'all have to come back through and tell me, I love getting in the middle of it and knowing, hey, I'm talented enough that I can be able to handle X, Y, and Z and have all the parts moving and have 5 or 6 guys waiting and be able to help over there or do anything else. But then you have to remind, hey, slow down. We have to scale. You got to be able to set these process and policies up So of going through and be able to put that in there, that's definitely something that I don't love doing, but no, it's a necessity to be able to grow the business and move forward.
Hey, it's been a great topic today about who cares about health in the workplace.
Yeah.
We've had some fun stories, and hopefully it helped you think a little bit more about, hey, what am I doing to encourage other people? I got to start with myself first.
Okay.
What are you guys' takeaways about, mental and physical health in the workplace? And last piece of advice you'd give the audience.
Absolutely. I'll take it from there. Hey, no matter where you're at, you can always start. It's something very small. It's not a big deal. I've always been in this situation that have been athletic, but have never went as far as what my brothers have done. But you can always start and be a part of it. It doesn't matter how small it is. That small spark will always start something really big.
I would say you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching. So check yourself, right? Find something, set a goal, and tell somebody that goal.
Yes.
And make sure you tell the right person, right? But then say, hey, hold me accountable.
Yep.
And it's generally not the person that's really close to you. It's somebody just like one step away. And they're not going to take into account of normal life. They'll be like, hey, how'd you do? So make sure you pay attention because people are watching.
Yep.
Set yourself a goal, and then make sure you have accountability partners checking on you, and you'll get 1% better every day.
That's awesome.
I think great input today, guys. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast. Thank you, listeners out there, for listening. Hopefully it encourages you to make a better workplace, to be a better influencer for those around you, starting with yourself. As always, thanks for joining us today on Crossroad Conversations.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.